In the midst of the current crisis, there have been some who've questioned the relevance of the federal government to our overall economy. Some have even called the current shutdown just a slim down. But in my home state of New Mexico, there is no question that this government shutdown has been irresponsible, it's been reckless, and it's been absolutely devastating to our economy. New Mexico serves the nation in many ways, through our national labs and our military bases, with federal lands and monuments that host Americans from every corner of the nation. And as a result, federal dollars in 2010 were nearly 36% of our state's gross domestic product. This figure includes veterans' benefits and Social Security, student financial aid. Federal dollars go towards grants to help fund state and local health care, transportation, education, and housing. And many of us here who have served as either city councilors or mayors, legislators or governors realize the role that federal pass-through dollars play in keeping our states and our municipalities solvent. In New Mexico, federal contracts are also critical for our small business community. Defense purchases account for almost 2/3 of total procurement spending. We are home to nearly 27,000 federal workers, workers who want to go back to work, workers who just want to do their jobs. Sandia National Laboratories and Los Alamos National Laboratories employ an additional 18,000 New Mexicans as contractors. And the U.S. Department of Energy's waste isolation pilot plant in Carlsbad employs 1,000 more. That's out of 2 million people. So it's an understatement to say that shutting down the federal government strikes at the heart of my state's economy. Between sequestration furloughs, the shutdown, and the current impasse over averting a catastrophic default on the nation's debt, hardworking middle-class families across New Mexico are the ones that are saddled with uncertainty and hardship. These manufactured crises have very real consequences for these families. Since the shutdown began, I have heard time and again from constituents who are paying the price for this reckless debacle. They say they feel like the collateral damage in the ongoing ideological battles in Washington, D.C. Hardworking civil servants, dedicated to their jobs and their country, have been sent home without pay, while many others have to work through the shutdown without a paycheck. Yesterday, I spoke with a Rio Rancho resident named Chad Didier, a former Marine, and now an air traffic controller in Albuquerque. During the shutdown, he's been reporting to work every day to help keep our airspace safe, but he doesn't know when he'll start getting a paycheck again. This comes on the heels of foregoing pay earlier this year due to sequestration. And as the father of 4 young children and the sole breadwinner in his family, he's worried about making rent next month and making his car payments on time. He's frustrated because he's doing everything that's been asked of him, everything he's supposed to do to take care of his family, to serve his country, but he feels like his government's failed him. Last week, because of the shutdown, the National Nuclear Security Administration ordered that Los Alamos and Sandia National Labs should be ready to shut down by October the 21st. Katie Korkos with the Los Alamos Chamber of Commerce told the Los Alamos Monitor that the impact of the shutdown at LANL could hit subcontractors twice as hard as other entities because they'll never be able to recover the income that they're currently losing. Energy Solutions, a subcontractor that processes and ships transuranic waste to the waste isolation pilot plant in Carlsbad, has already had to lay off 154 workers. The general manager at a department store in Los Alamos was quoted in the newspaper as saying, "Anytime the lab sneezes, we catch cold." In southern New Mexico, Krista Quintero told the Las Cruces Sun News that she was immediately worried for her 3-year-old son after hearing about the federal government shutdown. That's because she relies on the federal WIC program to supply a prescription baby formula for her son who has a disability. Unfortunately, Krista's not alone. Tens of thousands of women and children in New Mexico who receive assistance from this program every month could be left without vital nutritional support if the shutdown continues to drag on. What's also at stake is the incredible work being done at New Mexico's colleges and universities. These first-rate research institutions rely heavily on federal grants, fund staff, trainings, projects, including clinical trials for cancer treatment. I'm told that those trials and years of hard work will have to pause or even stop if the government stays closed. Scientists will see their salaries reduced, and research students who want to dedicate their lives to finding the next cure will have to wait even longer just to earn their degrees. Because of the shutdown, important job-creating investments in small business, the very engine of our economy, are delayed. On average, over $300,000 in federal loans are approved for small businesses in New Mexico each and every day. But not today, Mr. President. Because of this reckless and irresponsible shutdown, those small businesses aren't getting the loans to grow their businesses. They aren't hiring new workers. Now, New Mexico is home to many of the nation's most treasured public conservation lands, including national parks like Carlsbad Caverns, BLM monuments like the newly created Rio Grande del Norte, and national forests like the Gila and Carson that are unstaffed during the fall hunting seasons. More than 4,000 men and women work on these public lands, and they're being forced to stay home. Andrew Graves is an entomologist with the U.S. Forest Service in Albuquerque. Specifically, Andrew is in a program called Forest Health Protection that works across agency lines, providing expertise and assistance to federal and tribal land managers and foresters throughout New Mexico so that they can deal with outbreaks of disease or insect infestations. Andrew says they've already canceled or postponed meetings and trainings because of the shutdown. And each day the government remains closed, thousands of people who plan to visit our national parks and our wildlife refuges will be turned away. That doesn't just hurt the government. Restaurants and hotels, tire shops and grocery stores feel this pain in towns like Socorro and Taos, Grants, Alamogordo, and Las Cruces. Because of the shutdown, the Bureau of Land Management has stopped processing energy leases on federal land. A lengthy delay in the permitting process will not only take its toll on New Mexico's oil and gas industry, but also on the revenues generated for New Mexico's public schools. And the 8,000 New Mexico children enrolled in Head Start are feeling the impact of the shutdown on top of the cuts that sequestration has already imposed on that critical program. The shutdown also endangers the benefits that we owe over 170,000 veterans in New Mexico, people who serve this country with distinction. Mr. President, the VA will run out of money to pay mandatory benefits by the end of October if we don't act. Americans are fed up. Other debates in recent years have been just as heated, just as partisan. But this crisis is far more dangerous for our country. The American people, my constituents in New Mexico, want their federal government to function again. The federal workers in my state want to go back to work. Our constituents want us to move past the gridlock and actually govern. They want economic security and to be able to take care of their families. Mr. President, it is time to reopen the government. It is time to take the threat of default off the table, and it is time to stop playing games with the livelihoods of hardworking Americans.